Well, good news and bad news for hemp proponents. Looks like the industrial hemp bill passed the state of Kentucky. But there's a catch, and that's the problem. There's always a catch. It says the state. I'm getting this from Yahoo News. It's from the Associated Press, but I want to comment on it a little bit more. Post a link below. It goes, the Kentucky Senate passed a bill allowing farmers to plant industrial hemp. Here's the big catch, though. If the federal ban is lifted. Well, that's like saying, I'll have a whole bunch of money to spend if the freaking sky opened up and it fell on my lap. Because the federal ban is not going to be lifted. Because you know who controls at the very top? It's the major money, the oil companies and that stuff. But still, I guess it made it easier for this to pass because it did pass by a wide margin. So, but the whole deal is because it passed 31-6. But, it's like they're not stepping on the federal government's toes and nobody's, like, getting scared to buck them. But, really the only way you could do this is to kind of buck the federal government and say the state of Kentucky has passed it, now deemed it to be legal to grow hemp in the countryside. And, but they're saying if the federal ban is lifted. So this isn't going anywhere, even though it's good news. It's a feel-good news. That's the type of stuff. And they're saying it's going to help the economy and that type of thing, which it probably will because Kentucky used to grow hemp before it was banned. I think it was in 1937 when they had the Marijuana Tax Act. But law enforcement skeptics, including Kentucky State Police Commissioner Rodney Brewer, worries that officers will be unable to detect the difference between hemp and marijuana without costly lab tests. Well, you know what? I guess there's some, if it's in the ground, you're definitely going to know what the difference is because one's going to be this little dinky plant that grows really small and it has a totally different shape, and one's going to be a huge plant. But I guess if it's ground up, you're not going to be able to tell that easy, That's the whole deal, I guess. They worry marijuana growers would infiltrate hemp fields to plant small plots of pot. That I disagree with, too, because the marijuana, if you put marijuana interlaced into with hemp, the hemp grows like 12 feet high. It would totally overshadow the marijuana plant, and it wouldn't get any light. The smaller marijuana plant just wouldn't be able to grow in those fields. So, I don't know. Maybe they could do it some way or another. Just have but it would just be a bunch of. Well, it'd be just as easy to scam some other way. That's the way I look at it. I mean, as to go through the great lengths of trying to put it in the hemp fields because you can put it anywhere anyway. As a matter of fact, they probably have it in all these people's houses. But the thing is, I don't know. To me, this is a nice feel-good type thing, but I guess to get it done, you're going to have to play states' rights and say, we, the state of Kentucky, are going to grow hemp, and that's it. I don't care what the federal government says, and actually put it into law that we realize that the oil companies have a major conspiracy. Maybe you got to put things out there a little bit, too, because, explain in the law exactly why you're doing it. In the law itself, that the law that they pass, explain why you're doing it. That hemp was always a viable industrial product, and that it was major forces, even just name it, major forces into plastics and chemicals and oil interest that were coalesced to knock out hemp as a viable alternative product. Actually put that in the law. So, when people read the law, they become familiar with a little bit else. Even though you don't need that in the law, that helps. That helps because you need a little education because you got to have the little reason why you're passing a law. Supporters also try to debunk that claim, saying growers would avoid hemp fields because the hemp would greatly diminish the policy of marijuana. But anyway, it's not great news. That's the thing. It's not great news. I guess the only way you're really going to get this through is to say, hey, we the state of Kentucky, we the state of Georgia, we the state of New Jersey, we the state of New York, we the state of Connecticut, we the state of Rhode Island. We want hemp to be grown on our borders, and to hell with the federal government. I can't imagine that happening up northeast, that's for sure. But, in the Rockefeller centers, forget about it. Where Mr. Rockefeller used to be senator or governor up in New York, Nelson Rockefeller, for so many years. That guy put so much draconian laws against marijuana. It was like, if you had a cigarette that was a marijuana cigarette, it's like basically being convicted of murder or something. And he was slamming the hell out of everybody. But, he represents all the oil interests. So, this is a nice bill that passed. On the surface it sounds like good news, but if the federal ban is lifted, it ain't doing nothing. So, I don't know. I think we need to get a little more teeth in the bills than this. So, but it's a step. But it's not fast enough in my opinion. That's the problem. So we got to get it more aggressive, more offensive, and keep educating people that hemp is actually going to lead the United States out of the Great Recession that we're in right now, and it's an extremely important commodity. It can replace most of the fuel that we use, most of the plastics that we use, and give you be worn as clothes. There's a million different uses for this product. It's far more viable than oil, and considered the United States is one of the biggest breadbasket countries in the whole world, and we have all the technology to grow, and we don't need any genetically modified hemp. Let's just go for it, because we need more education on people and to people, and the thing is, it's going to take a lot to remove the inertia. A lot. So let's just keep plugging away.